Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our The Unspoken Tears special show. We run on the second Saturday of every month from 10 to 11, where we cover trauma, domestic violence against men, sexual abuse against men, bullying, human trafficking, porn addiction, the dark side of men's stories. So today we have a special guest, Richard Morden. He's a transformational coach. Welcome, Richard. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Let's thank you actually for being here and joining us. We're going to talk about a couple of things today. This is a very, very special show, and I am filling in for Dave Rogers. He's the one originally, usually host. So let's start with your introduction. How did you get? Tell me about yourself, please. Thanks.
The short version of this is I grew up in a farming community in Alliston, Ontario, youngest of six. My father was an ex-military person, so again, very rigid. Like I said, like many farm families, the work hard, don't speak up, don't ask questions, and the praise was none of few and far between. So you were literally expected to do a lot. But it taught me some good basics of that and of how to work, how to be, polite and respectful, how to be honest in that, and it gave me a good foundation for my life and seeing that. So experiencing different things growing up though there was not what I call the emotional support. There was much of, I also say, like many people, we grew up not never crying, wasn't even allowed, so you didn't even think about that. And also witnessing my mother's journey with cancer, and I can explain more of that, from a young man to an adulthood, that and watching her demise for many months as I sat by her bedside, seeing deaths in my family, personal deaths, people close to me. All those were what I call traumatic events. Even seeing the journey was almost like a mild depression. You're kind of going through and no idea you're there. So growing up, having become employed, getting married, and sort of the catalyst for this change of me was when my wife was suddenly passing with a brain aneurysm in 2013, and I chose to look at some way of good self-care. And I found a modality called the EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, and that was sort of uncovering and part of my journey to where I am today. So that's me in a nutshell. I can explain more, but just there's many pieces of that puzzle I've been able to unravel, and also what I really want to talk about is how I work with people and what I'm different, why I'm different, and doing things, giving people tools and modalities and that. So I'm open to more questions, in sense of what that looks like for people's journey, and again, where my journey fits into this storyline of how I've moved through my personal journey to even to where I am today.
Absolutely. Um, every one of us have a different journey, and also, end of the day, there's a reason for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So today's topic is surviving and thriving after disease, death, and divorce. So these three areas we're going to talk about it, and he's going to share more. Let's say start with overcoming divorce. Um, some of the areas are huge, and whatever we can cover, we will cover. Let's start with divorce.
Well, I'd say with divorce too, there's obviously painful parts of it, through that journey of that as well. Um, but it's how we feel about ourselves throughout this entire process. There's the communication aspects, there's the shame and blame. And my initial work is helping people to come to some self-acceptance of where you are and who you are at the moment. Because we create, and divorce is an event. And it's a situation we go through, but we bring our life history into our relationships. So, and understanding that. So it's, yes, this is a massive pain point, but we are part of that journey of two people coming together, our families coming together, and how to connect and build something greater. And when divorce happens, obviously it's a massive change and broken dreams, broken promises. But again, I go back to what self-acceptance and not, it may not be pretty. And a big piece of that is being really honest with your own self, and how you value yourself in that time. Be honest, we create stories around that, and giving that acceptance is we may have to we accepting the worst parts of ourselves. My work with my EFT work is really being really truthful with yourself in the moment. It's underneath all that, we're good human beings. We have some great qualities, but we've chosen at this point to see the dark sides of it and feel those dark sides are overwhelming all the good things we do. So when I look at self-acceptance and self-forgiveness, and this is, and I talk about self-nourishing as, again, you are primary to have this relationship with yourself, and it takes a journey. I mean, I said I created this myself. Accepting the bad things, how you feel, what you say to yourself, the critical voice, and looking and connecting with that. When we honor ourselves with that initial truth and start to resolve the energy, because your body's a holder of all your emotions, it's a holder of all your stories. All of this is encapsulated in your body, is held in there, and over time, obviously, it leads to a lot of I think it was like 80% of all diseases come from emotional disruption in our nervous system. When we can understand how to connect with that, how to process that, the stories will dissolve with the energy that we're holding on to. And again, we come down to a more calming truth about ourselves and calming acceptance. We may hate ourselves, viciously, for things we so-called do or have done. That's okay too, because it's energy. We can work with that, in the sense of you developing that sense of that's your truth in a moment. And that's my biggest piece of having with this divorce, and all the anxiety and tension that goes with it. When we honor our truth of what's actually going on, we can start to really come to a little bit of awareness, a little greater capacity for our own self-compassion. And we start to work out to our relationships, into our communications and our connection to our children, connection to our ex-partner, so we can build those out. But it starts with me, to have greater self-awareness. And again, I do this with tools and methods. So there are physical processes you go through to help resolve the energies and the distortions that you have, to start, again, calming the mind down, calming your systems down, so you have more clarity in your thinking, more clarity in your awareness. And it's when you're in a hyper state of anger, tension, my words aren't going to land so much, but if I can give you a physical process, I can start to bring that down, where then you can start to have greater connection again with yourself and the world around you. So these are all tools that are very highly functional and highly applicable for each person to do so. And then we can begin to create something out of that as well. There's 1,000 pages of the technical aspects of divorce, what to do. But all of it is really your personal journey, and I really want to emphasize, it's very, when you're willing to commit to the work and again, physical tools, it's amazing what you can accomplish on the other, coming through the doorway. And it's having someone walk with you through those steps as you make these changes, because again, we bring our life history into these relationships. And obviously, sometimes divorce is a bit of a catalyst for us to seek change, and not understanding that our stories were driving us probably in some forms of dysfunction in all our relationships. And it just happens to be what I call a pinnacle of divorce.
Richard, I want to take you back. I do have a couple of questions in the same scenario. Let's talk about. Do you think? Do you see from your experiences that uh, is a difference between male side and female side, and also, the movement. Most of the people, doesn't matter male or female, but during those process, or even as soon as they heard, what they see the file, or the divorce paper, or whatever you call it, and suddenly, shocked. It's just so much they have to go through trauma, so much emotional trauma. So can you elaborate on that? How, like, a male and a female take it on that journey, especially this platform we're talking about, men's perspective. How do you see that from your own experiences?
There is a big difference because women are more naturally inclined to seek help, to seek connection with other people to help um, find that support systems, and men do not. Men have been sort of conditioned to be this lone wolf oftentimes, and not honor our emotions, and we sort of um, survive and thrive with the anger, but also a tremendous emotional isolation. So, and for men, women can sit there and say they're feeling bad, or they're feeling down, and connection with a friend. Men don't do that very seldom, because we isolate. And again, of course, it leads into all types of other types of perhaps addictions or distractions. So, and again, it depends on who initiates divorce too, right? Time women are more prone to initiate the divorce. So when a man has been doing everything he understood to do, what he thought was right to be in his marriage and be supportive, oftentimes it's a shock because we haven't really understood what went wrong, even though we may have been told, because we've been conditioned to what I call a strata of how we perform, job wise, support wise, service wise. And I one of the areas I use is called the five languages of love, and it's as much as it is as how we give and receive affection, and things like that. So we've been sort of trained to be of service, to be of a role model, where women have go with a greater spectrum of that, and they're looking for the time, the words of touch, the words of affirmation, and many of us have never experienced that. So we're very much and it's really I talk, but in a funny way, women are looking for emotional intimacy from men from the belly button up, and we have no idea. We are terrified. So there is a massive demand because of just disappointment on both sides, especially on the men, because if we've been sort of trained to be a provider and be this sort of model, but we don't really have the great emotional connection with our families oftentimes, it's a shock, because it's just we don't have the capacity or the awareness how to move into that. And if you have a female partner that really in some doesn't allow the man to have emotion either, if it's a tragic situation, because we are generations of trauma, especially through all the wars and the movements of people. So there is a vast difference. Women seek help, men seek some sort of distraction. And I know the anger very well. I carried that anger with me for decades, of just growing up. So different styles, and it's women will reach out, men will not. So with these conversations, we want to have those voices where men can reach out in any kind of way, to just say, hey, I don't know what's going on. I just need somebody to see me for a while. Just be with me.
Let's I want to reconnect with a couple of things that you said. The shame, flame, or I mean the self-respect. You know, as a male, where we can start. Like, so many people, 90-95% of the people, they don't really are in the world, let's say, on the positive side, or they don't seek help. But just if somebody is going through, or just starting that the process or the journey divorce, where do you start? How to seek for help, or where to start exactly?
In the real, I call the real world out there, I think the help is challenging for, especially for men, to go to some sort of counseling, and which most of it is, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, is cognitive behavior therapy and good trained people as well. It's looking at, I say, at the alternative sources like myself and others, because I'm trying to say, who are these, being curious, because again, I think the traditional system we have, people fall through the cracks. It's very, very, very rigid, and you know, it's a tough challenge for men to seek help where to go. You can go to your doctor, you can go phone up these free, counselors and things like that, but you have to start looking at other sources, and again, feel them out. Do your diligence of who we are. So it's not an easy place. I've had people come to me that have come through traditional medicine, and good people just looking for something a little different. And I have to be very respectful for what the sources out there that acknowledging their journey, and what I may provide may be different, or another point of view for them to look at how they can see themselves. So again, groups like this, men's groups, and again, looking around the arena, what else is out there for me? What else is possible? So it's a journey to open this door for us.
Richard, do you see any patterns between younger generation? Let's say they just get married about a couple of years recently, let's say between 35, 45, and the older one, they are in the late 50s or 60s, and they are getting into divorce. Do you see any kind of patterns, different kind of how to handle when they come across these situations, or men are all are same?
Well, there is differences in the age groups, and I know with a recent stat, I'm not sure how accurate it was. I think they said divorce rate was around 50% for first-time marriages, 60% for second, and 73% for third. But the younger people, people get married young. Obviously, we don't realize we're getting married for sometimes family obligations, loyalties, and approval. And one person mentioned about being leveling up. So it's looking around to be like your family. People who marry older, it's a challenge too, because you've been used to being on your own, and to find that relationship where you can come together. It's a journey for two people that have been very individualistic for a long time to suddenly bring themselves into a relationship. It's like we want to bring all our stuff in, and one person wants to remodel, and one person doesn't. So it's really having, again, personal work in there. I kind of chuckle. I saw a thing some years ago on about 6 steps for a couple's work, and at the bottom of each step was, you must do your own work. So it's really having that awareness of what are we bringing into this relationship, and who are we, and how are we going to come together, and what are we going to create? Because we caught up in commonality. Oh, we have this much in common. Well, great, but that can be such a trap. What do you want to create? What do you want to do with your lives? Instead of just, we've been given this model of TV shows and what relationships should be looked like, and we've been so dysfunctionalized with the world around us of what this actually means. So it's rethinking this and of rebuilding ourselves in the sense of our awareness, our communication styles, our habits, our beliefs, our languages of communication, our preferences for connection and for intimacy. All that has to be brought into the discussion, that we can have a greater growth as two people, but growing together. And I say this because my recent wife and I were married now after a few weeks ago. We've been together for 5 years. We've had these discussions, because I'm 65 now and she's, 58. So it's interesting to as we are what I call in the senior side of this, to have what our relationship looks like and where it's going to go from here.
I believe the self-awareness is the key words here. To look at any emotional or any kind of situations. But I also want to quickly ask one question in that. When you deal with this kind of a divorce or any kind of process, do you sit with the kids, or do they prefer, let's say, when they reach you or when they go through it, do you have counseling, sitting with the kids, either both side or both of them?
I've had very few with the children involved, partly because they tend to be separate. But I mean, I would like to, if I kids, I would like to have with them one of the parents, obviously, so we can talk. And again, I teaching my modalities so they can. My whole focus is helping you regulate your nervous system with the tools. So when you understand, one, calming down, but two, then you can start to look at what are the communications, what's going on, and if the relationship's been broken, helping them reestablish those relationships with their children. So because that's one of the, obviously, children are the biggest instance of part of this, these relationships that end, because they pay a big price, and we helping us two parents to stay connected with them and not try and fight over these children, which happens. And so I haven't had a lot to do with the children per se, but mostly just with the adults, trying to help them to be established and grounded so they can be of greater presence with themselves, and therefore be able to engage with their children.
Yes, because adult most of the times try to pass it on or move on, actually. But kids, especially when they are in a younger age, they cannot, or they don't know what's going on. They don't have any idea. Even when they realize at the time, let's say in late teenagers or 25 or 30 years, it's too late because already they are damaged somehow, right? So it will be emotional, chaotic for everybody, right? So can you talk about the dealing with death, the grieveness?
I'll just add on with the children, because children always, especially young age or whatever age, blame themselves for parents splitting up. It's so common. It's an emotional, as much as a parent tries to explain what's going on, the children feel at fault. And there's a grief process for them because there's a death of their parents' relationship.
What's the reason behind that, when they feel that's their fault, or they blame themselves?
It's an unconscious belief that they're not good enough. In a sense, it's sort of the emotional system, right? There must be a reason for it. I must be at fault. Like, it's when you criticize a child at any age, the child doesn't hate you; they hate themselves, because they don't have the voice of, they don't have the awareness or discernment. You start screaming at a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, whatever, and we've all, they learn to hate them. They feel at fault. It's their brain's not formed. They don't have the cognitive sense to say, well, this is your problem. I didn't do anything wrong. They just know they're receiving this energy, this harshness, and they turn on themselves. It's just a matter of fact in their emotional system as they're developing, through their limbic brain parts and that. So a lot of my work is with, like I said, the nervous system, understanding that. So it's a default. When children, even at a young age, see a parent in sadness, grief, or loss, they will do everything they can, even like a small animal, to try and hook into you to try and help you or save you. And that's a very key point of, I knew it when my wife passed, that I wanted to make sure I was emotionally present with my children and not feel like I had to pull them in to protect them. So I chose a self-care, but it's very much, it's just a default, and there's no way around it.
Yeah, we can understand, and also whoever is listening, if they have any questions, please share, post it on either on YouTube or on our Facebook group or page. And also, this is very important topic. Let's move on to dealing with death, the grieveness. Let's talk about that.
Well, especially the death and grief. I said I experienced young watching. I think I was 9. My mother would, you get up and go to school, and my mom was just gone. I had no idea what even happened to her, and she was gone for a major cancer operation. And again, we didn't have the family consultation. It was just like, but I knew what to do as far as going to school. But I mean, that was an emotional shock to my system. Coming home, watching her journey, her in and out of the hospital with cancer and a broken hip, and then I sat by her bedside for 9 months to watch her die. You know, I was working at the time, but I would go sit with her, and each night I wasn't with her the night she died. And get up in the morning, and mom had passed away, and so that becomes what we call frozen trauma. It's trauma gets locked in your system with things like that. So the nervous system does amazing things to protect you, but over time, unless we release that, we carry that through our right into our adulthood. So a child, obviously, when a parent passes or a loved one passes, there's a grieving process, and when perhaps the other person, the parent, moves on too quickly, and men tend to do this more than women, bring in a new partner, there is no time for the children to grieve. There's no acknowledgement of the grief, and that's the big thing. It's and it doesn't mean the coddling. It really, what we want is the connection to regulate our nervous system. And oftentimes, like when my wife passed, I had so many people come up to me and just bump into me and said, "Hey, at work, and just tap you on the shoulder. I got acknowledged." But sitting with people, being around people that are calm, when you're in that state of grief, you don't need excitement. You don't want to be put on a Ferris wheel. Your system can't handle it. You want some calmness and sense, maybe just watching a movie or just kind of hanging out, without people trying to bring you out of your sadness and bring you to make you joy. It's like, what? Shut up and listen. Don't try and overtalk your stories, make somebody else's other story look worse. You just need that connection and simple things to do things. Like I remember side note, family lost a child, and the neighbors were so good. They went over and just helped them sort of get through their meals and helped them sort of clean their house, and just little things to keep them getting back into some sort of functional. But that support was huge because it wasn't a lot of dialogue. It was just simple things to do things. So a child may need time to help them just do their clean up their room. Little things without the little things will help them with sitting with them while they're doing their homework. Just, you don't have to talk. Just be there and calm. So they have that, they're not feeling alone, because what it is when you're sitting beside somebody and you're in a feeling like a state of compassion, you're helping their nervous systems regulate. So that's key for us. If you're grieving, and I'm just sitting there having a coffee, that we don't have to talk. I'm connecting to you. And even here, we do this even over Zoom. It's still, you've got that feeling of, I feel safe.
Yeah, I can connect with a couple of things, because I lost my father when I was 1.5 years old. He was diagnosed with leukemia, and within 6 months after diagnosed, he passed away. Even that time, back in 1975 or 76, they didn't know even was it a leukemia or something else. But what I noticed, observed in my culture, in my environment, whenever I go to these funeral homes and in our culture, in our community, that at least probably minimum 5 days continuously there are people at home supporting in, they don't leave the people, the family alone. So continuously people going and back and coming back and dropping by, there should be like at least 5-10 people minimum at the house, so they don't feel alone. and even some kind of support, so always there's a calls, or always some kind of support system is over there. But lately I found it's gradually it's not happening. It's deviating from those relationship, or we are losing that that the gap is growing up. So it's very important thing is that at least if we can help them in some ways, it's very important, especially the kids. um, let's talk about the disease. Of course, you have that experience in a different ways, coming from the disease. Not only that, but also the process, right? So let's talk about that, accepting, and how we cope with that, and things like that.
Well, I guess seeing my mother sick, obviously, I was there as a um, young child growing up in that. I was probably pretty. I was around my mom a lot, So I guess my style is kind of nurturing, so I was able to, help her out a bit, things like that. But that's the part where some people, unfortunately, the challenge is where it happens to people we don't, and especially I think I'm going to say men, we don't know what to do when our partner's sick. And I didn't realize this so much because until I get into other discussions, the partner wife may be going through a disease or illness, and the man's unable to support her. And that's unfortunate. I don't want to put shame or blame on that. It's just so she's relying on family or friends, and he may not be emotionally available to him, which is a very difficult situation. So helping someone, like I said, your partner's going through this, and I don't know what to do, and we tend to isolate, right? We get distracted and looking like we don't care, but we haven't got the capacity at that time to try and engage with them or go with them to the doctor's appointments. And it's helping those gentlemen that can do that, and maybe happen on the woman's side too, that they can find that someone to go with them to their appointments, to their healthy care things, so they can not feel alone. And because a person can't go, may feel shame, a lot of shame and guilt, but they're going to hide behind, especially men, we're going to hide behind anger. We're going to go to be distracted. So it's building that bridge you got. And like you said, many cultures were very supportive of people's death, and now we've gone the other way. We've isolated people even more. And I think in North America, death is a natural process. And I've buried 11 family members, brother suicide, cancer, old age, dementia. So to me, death is a natural experience and process of life. So I'm the only one of my siblings left that I can say, because I've really worked on myself feeling compassion. I love them all even more because I'm not mourning their memories. I'm cherishing the love that I had with these people. So again, being that supportive to these, what most people don't know too is my late wife was an alcoholic. So for 15 to 20 years we were married, she drank. So that's a disease. There's addictions in my siblings. So I was witnessing that, and what I learned through my wife's experience was to have compassion for myself, because I used to get angry for days. And it's a journey to be there too, and then from that compassion we can seek help, but we have to take care of ourselves first, so we're not fighting against them for what they're doing. And we are a society of disease with all the chemicals in our food and systems. So it's finding that support for them, first of all, physically, and then emotionally, to finding support for you guys so you can stay connected through this journey.
There's so much deeper meaning into that, and also deeper connections. When we talk about these divorce and death and disease, of course, tragedy. So any accident or any major loss, how do you overcome, or how do you deal with that? Can you elaborate any talk about that?
Again, I use the tools that I have with the tapping and the NLP work, as well as so you can really broaden your emotional capacity for all of this, so we don't go into the again, so we don't contract, so we can take care of our emotional needs, because these are shocks to our system. These are trauma. So people talk about treating trauma, but we're not treating trauma. We're treating people. So you as a person, how do I help you? How do I help you become feeling a little bit, and not denying, not dismissing, but really process the energies and emotions in your body. And it doesn't mean you forget them. We feel we have obligations. We have to remember, like a soldier, we have to remember them with our pain. We have to cherish them, and we have to, you do what you want. I'm not here to tell you how to do it, but I'm offering you tools to regulate your nervous system. This all goes back to, how do we feel? What are our thoughts and beliefs and stories about this? And, I thought this was forever when we have these happen. But again, if I can help you regulate you and de-stress you, you're going to have greater capacity and greater awareness for yourself and what you actually need and can do, and not feel crippled by it, not feel handicapped by this. I was aware enough. I was very pragmatic. When my wife had her aneurysm, I chose to have removed from life support, and my children were right beside me when I made that decision, and talked to the doctors, and her parents are with us, were there too. So I was very pragmatic, but also in the sense of having that discussion with my children after. Do you understand what the decision was here? So they knew what was going on, and we talked about their mom and her situation at times. So we were able to have that voice of discussion. It wasn't buried. I grew up, and like many of us, we don't talk about that. And silence is a perpetrator or perpetuator of more abuse than we can even fathom. So having someone help you with that conversation, voicing those painful moments and thoughts and feelings, and it can be emotional at the time, but at least we suffer in silence, and it's unfortunate, and we've been conditioned to do so, and that just doesn't help. So there's many ways we can get to that point where there's some great growth on the other side of it.
One thing that I want to ask you is, all these areas, or all these experiences that we come across, anything, death, divorce, or abuse, or any tragedy. How do you understand the fact of accepting and understanding the suffering? How do you see that?
Well, if we're choosing if suffering is, again, suffering through, because we don't know, I was there myself, but I realized we didn't know we had a way out of it. It's like a depression. You didn't know you were there. You didn't even know you were depressed. So suffering is a sense of, again, what can you do to move through that? Do you want to suffer? Do you want to stay in this state? Some people choose to. I'm offering, again, different tools and techniques to suffering is a feeling, and with the feeling, we create emotions and stories around it. So I'm offering you a choice. Do you want to suffer? Or do you want to? And it doesn't mean you want to go out and start bouncing. We have different ways of remembering. Everybody's individualistic. They want to maybe have how you choose to remember these people, or not. Simplify that. So and the biggest thing of that is, what is your choice? Because some families and some situations in the media says, oh, you should suffer, you should stay in the state of grief, and you should stay that. And I'm of the mindset, what's the right thing for you? What do you feel like doing? What is the best thing for you? Not what your family thinks you should do, not what your workmates, not what your social system tells you to do. You can choose not to, with the work, with some work, then you can choose to be living something different, and choosing. It's all choice and creation. And my biggest work is also helping people create.
The reason why I'm asking is that suffering is not like a punishment that you want to stay, and then you want to suffer the rest of your life. No, so accepting the fact suffering is part of the life and experience, the journey. So You just accept that situation and then move on and come out from that. What did you learn? So let's talk about what how the overcoming and servicing and redesigning your life. Any of these from any of these areas, though.
Again, when I put this a year after my wife passed, I wrote up my next relationship on paper of what that, and I knew what that felt like. And whatever prompted me to do it, I don't know. I don't have any magical input to that, but I just knew I had a wonderful relationship with my wife, but we had our differences. We had our dysfunctions, and my daughter came back and said, "You guys didn't talk," and I said, "Yeah, we went through that too." But I knew what my next relationship felt like. So my work is helping people find those feelings to create something different and removing the obstacles to that creation. So we're not always stuck in trying to resolve the pain, because we can spend lifetimes in the pain cycle. And I think, and not disrespecting anybody, but it's a bit of a trick there that I think that we can create. And when we create, we peel away the resistance, we'll find growth. And again, it moves us from suffering. It doesn't mean we forget. It just changes our emotional standpoint of what that actually is. So, and I said, I've been there with myself. I didn't have an addiction. My siblings did. And a part of my life is saying not to be like them. Helping me make choices that were not the same as those. But I suffered with my mother's disease and that depression and that. But again, creating what can I create and finding models for that. Sometimes we don't know what that feels like. I have no clue, but we can find somebody who may represent that. We can look at not the movie stars, not the media, not that's all so bogus. It's bizarre. But finding people around, or maybe an article you've read, or a travel thing that would help you say what would it be like to be there. And it's interesting. I came from Ontario to Vancouver Island because I'd heard about the island in BC for decades, and I had family out there. So I understood. I was connecting to that feeling. Now we've just recently relocated to Mexico. So it's connecting to that creation as well. So it could be simple things that you want to create. It could be a calmer lifestyle. It could be you're choosing to let some friends go so you have more peace in your life, or you maybe want to create some new friendships, things like that. I may have got off track with that answer. So,
No. It's absolutely right. And of course, what I see or what I understand is that the inner world, everything is depends on our inner world. It reflects on the outer world. So let's talk about the future dreams and gratitude before we close. How, especially men, I really want to connect or talk about these last 2 years. So many deaths and traumas going on, especially within the men world, right? So how they can overcome in those situations. A lot of younger men or even the family, and they went to separation, they went to some death losses, and how can they handle
for the men, in a sense, because we've been providers and had jobs, and over the years, a lot of the industries have shut down, so we haven't had the same ability to go to work and provide the way we were so-called conditioned to. But families, it does take two people to connect, and for some men, the major provider might have been their partner, their wife at the time. So it's helping them, again, tools, stresses, techniques to calm your nervous system down. I can talk about feelings all day long. I can talk about beliefs and behaviors all day long. It all comes down to how I can help you feel in the moment with tools. Because we are out there in a world, and here's this distraction point. We are given what we call meta programs we're born with. We are developing those. We develop from there. We develop values. From values, we develop beliefs, and from beliefs, we develop behaviors. We're out there in the world dealing with behaviors and beliefs, and this is a little confusing because behaviors cycle, beliefs, to facilitate the belief, and which is our actions. So when we can get back to what is our belief, perhaps, and perhaps a little bit deeper, what is our value at the time? How, when we can understand that little string of connectivity, we can start to perhaps look at ourselves in a different way. So again, in behaviors of, for every value, you can have 100 beliefs, and every belief you can have up to 80 behaviors. So these become loops of that and beliefs. And so finding a belief, what do you actually believe about yourself? Can we reframe that? Can we come to some truth about that belief and offer some different choices in that belief? And then perhaps look at a value behind that you can see a greater possibility within yourself. And that possibility, I'm all about what else is possible. Two phrases I have that if anything can do for you is what else is possible, and that's interesting, because we are forced into what I call conclusions with our statements and beliefs. Something goes wrong and we start to just grind down and we curse at it and we get all frustrated. And when we can understand as far as cause, we are cause effect. And when I say what else is possible, I'm not looking for an answer. I'm not looking for something concrete. It's a feeling I'm generating. That's interesting. Just saying that over and over and over time, that's interesting. And another thing that says, and last one is not last, but who does this belong to? 98% of what goes in our mind, our thoughts, is not ours. When we're in environments of people around, we're connecting and picking up other people's stuff, to say the least. So we have, who does this belong to? And, give these, you can write them down. And just saying that over and over will peel away a lot of extraneous thoughts around us. What else is possible opens up possibilities. And that's interesting no matter what happens, flat tire, car accident. You can say, well, that's really interesting. Wow. That starts to shift your awareness and energy in this world. And things open up for you. I mean, that has changed my life of possibilities, because one is, how's it get any better than this? And it doesn't matter if we just had an accident. Again, it takes us from that conclusion into like, what else can happen here?
Absolutely, yeah. You don't want to stuck, especially men. We do isolate ourselves and then stay in a circle for very, very long time. And then most of the times we don't want to come out, or most of us we don't know how to come out. That's a problem. Let's talk about the process. How do you help the people? It doesn't matter male or female. How do you help them, and where can they find you? And is there any website or contact information? Let's talk about the process.
I've got a calendar link I can put out there as well. My process initially was called EFT, the tapping. I teach people the tapping. And that's what I call helping you regulate, but also for your own self-empowerment. When I was going through when I understood the tapping points in my worst moments of huge intense anger, I could tap. And I call it the Chevy Chase rant. I could tap and I could just spit nails for 15, 20 minutes. I almost bruised myself. I was tapping or on my fingertips like that. And that helps to regulate your nervous system, lowers your cortisol level. That's key. Because it's not mind. It's not mind over body. It's the body. I'm giving the body a tool that can start to calm down. I remember my example, one of my, I got an audit. I used to work for Honda. I had an audit that didn't go well, and I was so ticked when I got home. And I just was tapping and ranting and just freaking out. And at the end, I realized some of the clarity of where the mistake happened. And I was like, oh, okay. And I felt better, because we carry stuff with us, and I can teach you tools that help you dispense that energy in the moment. So that's one. And then there's other things, techniques we can talk about. What's it look like to work with me? I like to work with people like 3 to 4 months initially to help you, give you a foundation. This is not a one-off. This is not going to fix you forever. It's a process, but I give people a chance to build a tool of a case of self-empowerment, realizing when you map your journey out a little bit and say, okay, I was here and now I'm here. I can do this. Where you choose to go after that, I can give you a foundation. of something better. So I was always seeking more. I was always kind of hungry, and I wasn't a scholastic person. I laugh. I look at my grade. If you saw my grades in school, I just squeaked through high school, just So I'm not a scholastic person, but I'm self-taught that I was wanting to find out more. So the Q approach, my website, my email is rmorden@gmail.com. And my phone number, if you want to put it in, it's a WhatsApp number. It's +1 705 220 0795. And I can put a calendar link, wherever it can be. People can reach out to me there as well.
I just shared the Q approach, quantumapproach.com website.
Yeah.
So people can take a look at it and then contact him if anybody wants to some sort of help or support.
Yeah.
And also you can reach out to them to Richard, for future help too. I really want to thank Richard. We have discussed a lot of things actually today. It is very important. You can go back or even wherever you are stuck. Not only death or divorce or disease or tragedy or any areas of life. We have discussed about that, and he has some amazing tools to overcome and help you out overcome. Thank you, Richard, for joining today and sharing those moments and your life journey experiences. Thank you.
Thank you. It was an honor to be here.
Thanks. This is one of the things that we every second Saturday of every month we do have the Unspoken Tears that we do cover different areas, and there's a special forum coming up tomorrow, the importance of literacy in boys' lives, which is for the World Day of the Boy Child, second observance. And the theme is boosting optimism and restoring self-worth. So we will be talking, and then there will be a panel discussion forum tomorrow from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Please join. And also we want to share this disclaimer because we would like to remind you that Voice of Men 360's mission is always delivered with a good faith toward peaceful harmony. The views and opinions expressed in today's episode are those of our speakers, do not represent Voice of Men 360. Our organization engages in discussion forums to offer inspiration and create awareness of the issues of men who wish to overcome their life challenges. We are not providing medical or therapeutic advice. Should you require that type of assistance, we recommend you contact a medical professional immediately. If you have any questions or concerns about today's episodes or any Voice of Men 360 content, please email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. Thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. Thank you. Take care.